Hi everyone, this is Matt. Welcome back to Touchgrass Gardening. Do you have trees in your yard that look a little sad? Or maybe you've planted some trees that aren't native to your environment? Well, today we're going to talk about something called foliar feeding, which is how I fertilize particularly my non-native trees to look like this. And there's a lot of tricks to it. So when do you do it? How much do you do it? How often do you do it? And what are the things to look out for? We're going to talk about it all today in today's video. So what is foliar feeding? Unlike most fertilization methods, which is putting granular fertilizer in the ground or mixing fish emulsion and putting water around your tree, this is actually feeding the leaves. So you're spraying your foliar feed under the leaves where those pores are that open up in the morning and take in moisture, but you're also adding in the nutrients that are generally in the same fertilizers you're putting in the ground. It's just a different way for the tree to uptake those nutrients and get it into the tree's system. And so I prefer this method, especially in an environment where the soil isn't very good. And I really think that foliar feeding my tree is actually a superior and better way to fertilize than the traditional methods, and that's why I do it. And let's show you how. So let's talk about why foliar feed. And for me, I live in an environment where most tropical trees and most just fruit trees in general shouldn't live in a desert with poor clay soil. And behind me is my 3.5-year-old avocado tree. Now I first started this out from a seed, as you saw in a previous video, but then when we moved here 2 years ago, I put it in the backyard. And I really think that for non-native trees, they need something special to help them survive and do well in a climate that isn't their own, especially a tree like an avocado. Because you often hear that avocados just do not grow in Arizona, or at least most varieties don't. And so whatever I can do to try to help them along, which is why I foliar feed, is because obviously it's a big tree, has a lot of roots, should be able to get a lot of nutrients, but this tree it doesn't do that well in clay, high pH soil. So finding other ways to get your tree's nutrients in that type of environment is actually really important. And that's why I think foliar feed is something that is really useful for people with trees that don't necessarily live in an environment that's anywhere near where they should be. And so that's the why of why I'm doing this and why I think it's been extremely useful for me, my trees, and my yard. So let's talk about how I prepare to foliar feed my trees. And I use a battery-powered backpack sprayer because I have a larger yard, but don't be intimidated. When I first started out, I just used a little hairspray bottle like this, where I'd mix a tiny bit of the foliar feed with water and then spray my little potted avocado on my tiny balcony in California. And that avocado is now 20 feet tall in my backyard. So you can start out small, and then if you find it useful, graduate to something like this. So all you're gonna do is look at the products that you buy and look at the mix that it requires for the amount of water. So these particular ones are 1/2 ounce to 1 gallon of water. I've done it enough where I just kind of eyeball it at this point. I like to put a little bit of water in first and then put the foliar after it so it doesn't get kind of stuck on the bottom. This way it'll kind of mix up a little bit easier because I'm not in there mixing it myself. And you do want to have some paper towel with you because, as we'll talk about throughout this video, this stuff will stain. So you really don't want to put too much in here. It's one of the things where the only thing that can go wrong for you is if you put too much. Because if you don't put enough, it's just water. So you got about 4 ounces or so in there. And then I'm just going to mix it. And I'm going to let it go. And again, you can see that it has this kind of brown color consistency. That's because there's iron inside. So there's magnesium, potassium, sulfur, iron in most of these sprays. The sprays that I use, the one that I like the most, is from a company called Southern Ag. The label fell off of this bottle, but this is from Southern Ag, and we'll show a label on top. And it really is the best one that I found. It's called citrus spray, but on the back it says that it's for citrus and all other tropicals. So it works for the tropicals that are in my yard as well. And I've found with like the lychee, the jackfruit, the avocado, they respond well to when I treat them with foliar feed. And so I do it every 2 to 3 weeks in the growing season, and then once a month or so in winter. And I found that really kind of brightens them up and also can help push some new growth when the tree is ready. So our water is just about full in the tank. I'm going to shut it off. Close the top. One thing that when you have a backpack sprayer is you want to be close to an edge so that you don't have to lift this thing up, because it does get heavy once you fill it with water. You just put it on like so. Use your body to lift it up, and then you're ready to go. So how do you spray the trees? And there is a method to it, because the way that trees open up and suck in moisture in the morning is they have little pores on the underside of them. And that's really what you're targeting with your foliar feed. So the main thing you're trying to do is get the foliar feed on the underside of the leaves. So what I'm gonna do is I'm mostly gonna spray under the leaves. So I'll turn my backpack sprayer on and then show you that I would do this whole tree, but just for demonstration purposes, the underside of this lychee. You can see that it's pretty much dripping, but it doesn't look like totally wet. And the thing of it is that I want to do this when it's just sunrise, and so I have a little bit of light. Theoretically, you're supposed to do it when it's the coldest part of the day, which for me in the desert is at sunrise before the sun comes up. But you really want this liquid to dry out and be sucked in by the tree before the sun hits it. And so I do it about exactly at sunrise, and then by the time that the light gets onto my trees, which is about an hour or two later, it's already all gone, and you're not going to get any burn, because technically this is a fertilizer, and it can burn your leaves, especially on your sensitive tropicals, if it's just coated with liquid and then the sun blasts onto your trees. So that's one thing that you really should look out for when you're thinking about foliar feeding your trees. But that's how to do it, is to really get under the tree and let it suck in all that foliar feed. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the sprayer that I use, and it's this PetraTools HD4000. This is not a sponsored video, I'm just giving you my honest opinion. I like this sprayer. I've been using it for about 2 years. The reason I like it is that the nozzles are pretty good, and you can get that fine mist that you're looking for to get under the tree and really cover the leaves. It has a pretty long wand, so I can kind of get into the tree and then spray it. I have had to replace this wand once. It broke. There were some issues internally where it stopped working. I had to open it up and put it back together again. So it's not perfect, but I like this sprayer and I found it to be useful. So if you're looking for a backpack sprayer for your backyard, I would recommend this one. This has been our video on foliar feeding. I hope you enjoyed it, you learned something, and found it interesting. If you did, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And then most importantly, let me know what you thought. If you've tried foliar feeding before, you had a good or bad experience with it, let me know. I'd love to have a further discussion with you in the comments below and have you be a part of my community. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. So what is foliar feeding? It really is a method of it's crawling on my face.